The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Want to shake up your small business marketing? I mean, really shake it up.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Have you been thinking about doing your own podcast?
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Would you like to take your business to the next level?
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
This is the golden age of podcasting, and it's time to stop thinking and start doing.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Get your message heard 24/7, 365 over and over again.
Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Welcome to the Studio 21 Podcast Café.
Here's the creator and host of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, David Garofalo.
Welcome everybody to the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is a 21-minute or less weekly podcast to help get your message out, grow your business, and build your bottom line. Let me help you bring your marketing and advertising into the 21st century. My name is David Garofalo. I've been doing podcasting since 2010 and created a six-figure income from one of my podcasts. This is a 21-minute or less podcast, so let's start the clock. And here we go. Today we're talking about the secret you might need to know, and you do need to know this. Your knowledge is hurting your podcast. Do you know it all? Maybe you do. But you don't want to be called that, the know-it-all, right? Are you the authority on the subject that you're talking about? Maybe, but your listener might not be. Can they follow along, or should they not even be talking to you at all or listening to you? Are you too cool for the room? Or should you not even be in the same room with your listener? Listen to me. KISS it. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS is an acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. As a design principle noted by the U.S. Navy in 1960, the KISS principle states that most systems work best if they are kept simple rather than to be made complicated. Therefore, simplicity should be the key goal in design, and unnecessary complexity should be avoidable at all costs. Keep it simple. Variations of this phrase include keep it simple, silly. That sounds nicer. Keep it short and simple. Keep it simple and straightforward. And keep it small and simple. But keep it simple. One way or the other, keep it simple so that people can follow along with what you're trying to teach them, with the information you're trying to get out to them. And while you're at it, don't assume, because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, right? Assume. They might not even know it, and you don't know it. You don't know what they don't know. And you need to know that they not necessarily know everything that you're talking about. Give them the key to unlock the door. And don't forget to always throw in the basics. I hear a lot of techies talk, and it's Chinese to me when they're talking. I don't know what the hell they're trying to say when they're saying it. Three-letter acronyms all the time, and I just can't keep track of them. I don't know what they're talking about. They're trying to sell me something or improve something, and they're using three-letter acronyms over and over again, never giving me the key to unlock the door, explaining what they're talking about. How about helping me out and keep it simple and say the acronym followed by the term at least the first time that you use it in front of me or while I'm listening to you? When we cover SEO, I'm sure I mentioned it. I meant to mention it. I'm sure I did. SEO, search engine optimization. And then maybe said it again, search engine optimization, at least once while I was explaining it, and then maybe going to the letter after that, saying the letters, the three letters, and then following up by saying what it meant so that you could follow along if I used it again, knowing exactly what I was talking about. If you're doing a podcast on your subject matter, you need to ARTDI, A-R-T-D-I. Always remember to do it. A-R-T-D-I. Art-D. Always remember to do it. All right, I made that one up. But I would have to actually give you the answer to an acronym that I made up or an acronym that even existed. Don't make them have to look it up. Don't make them have to stop the podcast and go somewhere else because they may not come back. Keep it easy for them. Keep it simple. Say what it is. Say the acronym, followed by what it is, and then maybe one more time if you're going to continue to use it over and over and over again. And that's on every single show that you do. You might know it, but someone in your audience doesn't know it. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. Bail them out. Help them out. Or they're going to bail out on you, and they're going to actually stop listening to your show. Don't make the listener think that they are stupid. You are if you continue to make this huge mistake, especially after you know better, which is now. When I talk about vodcasting, I'm sure I say vodcast, video on demand. Each time that I mention it, at least once on each show, when I mention what a vodcast, that I'm doing a vodcast, I'll say video on demand on every show. And you should too. You are always looking for new listeners, and you want them to know what you're talking about. Sure, you know, but if you are using it for the first time for a first listener on a broadcast that has never heard it before, they need to know what it means. And we're always looking for new listeners. And there's always somebody new on there. So don't be too smart for your listeners. Try to make it simple and easy. I got a whole bunch more acronyms to share with you. Some that you might not even know are acronyms, and some you never even heard of before. But first, it's important. Listen to this.
If you're in the area of Boston North into southern New Hampshire and you're thinking about doing a podcast, there is a place you have to see. It's called Studio 21 Podcast Café. Located right over the border into Salem, New Hampshire, Studio 21 Podcast Café is a live, working, full-service podcast and vodcast, that's video on demand, studio. All professional equipment, professional producer, and total distribution of your podcast is done for you. Would you like search engine optimization for more people to find your business or better ranking on Google? Well, Studio 21 Podcast Cafe can do it all for you for far less than you think. Schedule a free 21-minute no-obligation consultation by going to www.studio21podcast.cafe. That's studio21podcast.cafe. Now, back to the program.
And we are back, and today we're talking about the secret you need to know. Your knowledge could actually be hurting your podcast. You might be blabbing out industry acronyms to your listeners, and they can't follow along. Keep it simple. Help them out. You're hurting your listener and hurting your podcast. SDI, stop doing it. I made that one up too. But SDI, stop doing it. SEO, search engine optimization, vodcasting, video on demand casting. I don't want you pausing the podcast and Googling what I'm talking about here. I'm here to help, not only running around trying to figure out an acronym, but trying to help you out with your podcast, trying to get the listener to continue to listen to my show. Acronyms are often used to refer to any abbreviation formed with the initial letters. So it's commonplace right now. You see it everywhere you go. Some acronyms you don't even know are acronyms. They actually turned into words themselves. The term laser, for instance, originated from an acronym. Light amplification by stimulating emissions of radiation. Laser. And then it actually became a word. We say laser and we know exactly what it is. But when that word first came out, you needed to actually go through that acronym of saying what it is. Now we know what a laser is. Scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. That's what it was. And the word scuba became a word. I'm the CEO and the COO of this company. That's the Chief Executive Officer and the Chief Operating Officer. Can you imagine these words all tied together of I'm the COO and the CEO of the vodcast at the podcast of, I mean, this can get crazy. So you have to try to put it in there so people can follow along as we go on. Some don't even make sense, like IOU. 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 The true acronym here should be IOY. IOU, YOU. But it's IOU, but you know what I mean. If I say, give me an IOU, you're following along with that, and after a while, it's understood what it is. A lot of these terms are not. Maybe in your industry, you've been through it so many times that you understand it, and it's just coming off natural for you to just keep going. Believe me, to somebody listening, there's a new listener out there that is not following along as it does. So once in a while, at the top of the first time that you're saying it during the podcast, kind of give them the key to unlock the door. Tell them what it is and make life easier for them. If you use them, try to quickly give the meaning next time, or at least the first time on the episode that's using it. All industries have them just for their industries. But you might have a newbie, a person who is new on the job or new to a different field. Go easy on the acronyms on the newbie. And especially if you're doing a podcast, and believe me, there's a newbie every time. Have you ever been around a bunch of tech guys? To me, it sounds like a different language. Tech is technical to begin with for technology. Some people know what the acronym means, but don't know what it stands for. P.S. Nobody needs to feel stupid. Postscript, P.S. Think about it. There's something there that you haven't thought of, but maybe I can help. Let's get together and talk about it ASAP, as soon as possible. Go to the Contact Us page of the Studio 21 Podcast Café and email me. You don't have to DIY. Do it yourself. You can use Dave at Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. That's Dave at the number 21 podcast. Dave at Studio21 Podcast.cafe. Schedule a free 21-minute meeting with me. Let me know your ETA, estimated time of arrival. Let me show you the studio. Let me walk you around. We'll talk about your plans, and I'll even buy you a cup of coffee. Next week, can I swear on my podcast? The short answer is yes. But should you? That's my 21 minutes or less, and we're out of here. You've been listening to the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, live from the Studio 21 Podcast on the United Podcast Network.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.